In 2020, there was an incident that took place at my granddaughter's school.
Did Joni Lamb have a hand in Marcus Lamb's untimely death? It's a chilling question, one that is echoed in the whispers of those closest to the Lamb family. What if the passing of Marcus, the charismatic leader of Daystar Television network, was more than just a tragic accident? What if it set off a chain of events that now leaves us questioning the very foundation of trust, love, and integrity that once seemed so rock solid?
We turn now to Texas, where controversial Christian television CEO Marcus Lamb has died after his battle with COVID-19.
Marcus Lamb, a man known for his unwavering faith and leadership, died suddenly in November 2021, his death attributed to complications from COVID-19. Yet, even as the Christian community mourned, whispers began to circulate, whispers suggesting that the timing of his death might not be as simple as it seemed. Could it be that the death of this prominent figure was the catalyst for something much darker, a series of events that no one could have predicted? Or were these rumors nothing more than the product of grief-stricken minds trying to make sense of an unfathomable loss? My last night with Marcus at the hospital, I was taking care of him, and at around 3 o'clock in the morning, she said to me, she just looked at me in this dark room, I'm there serving, and she looked at me and said, "Look what you have done to this family." I remember texting my mom, saying, "I can't do this anymore. I told God, you feel the pain of my heart, me and my child are ruining this family," and I said, "I know, my God, you're protective of me, you'll get me out of here." That was my last night. The next day, he dies. It was clear from the very beginning that Marcus' passing would shake the foundations of his family, his ministry, and the people who had followed his work. But as the months went by, a curious pattern began to emerge. Joni, his wife of over 3 decades, began making controversial decisions that only fueled suspicions. And what of Doug Weiss, the counselor who seemed to gain an alarming amount of influence in her life shortly after Marcus's death? Was their relationship truly as innocent as it seemed, or were strings being pulled behind the scenes, manipulating the narrative? I went to Daystar one afternoon to grab something from the cafe. There was something in the green room, and I had my child with me. I knew she was scared at this point, so we didn't take her there anymore. We had a nanny at home with her. But this one time, I wanted to pick up something really quick. I go in there, it's in the afternoon, I didn't think anyone would be in the green room, and I take her with me, and it was horrible. I go to grab that box of food, and in walks Feet, and you know, his spouse, and my child was so full of terror, her body went completely limp, and she fell under the table, hard. I grabbed her little body, picked her up, and ran into the car. I remember telling other family members about it, the ones I trusted, and it was traumatic. I was like, I'm not bringing my child here. As time went on, things only grew murkier. What started as a simple story of grief and recovery began to take on a far more complicated and unsettling tone. Divorce papers, accusations, and the emergence of deep family divisions raised even more questions. Why did things unfold so quickly? Why, just 2 months after Marcus's death, did Doug file for divorce from his wife of over 30 years? And why was Joni so eager to defend her relationship with Doug, even as many questioned its timing and authenticity? There's something deeply unsettling about how quickly the pieces started falling into place. Was this all truly a story of love, or was there something more sinister lurking just beneath the surface? You know, they did show me some stuff, text messages, emails, and some other paperwork, that I said, okay, now I'm going to have to go back and talk to Jonathan and Susie, and I'm going to do that this morning to hear their side. But what I will not do, I'm not going to keep going back and forth, back and forth. I saw what they showed me. I heard both sides of the story. I felt some things in the spirit when I was talking to Jonathan and Susie. I definitely felt some things when I went to Daystar. And I'm going to post this interview today. I'm going to let everybody chop it up, dissect it, criticize it, say hey, I'm going to post the interview because that's the fair thing, the right thing. People can feel whatever they want to feel about it. And then I'm going to make a third and final video where I share what they showed me, which, there was some stuff they showed me, and it was like, I have to go talk to Jonathan and Susie. And then I'm going to get Jonathan and Susie's response to the things that they showed me. And I already started talking to them about it. And I'm going to make the final video, and I'm going to wash my hands of it.
You know, they did show me some stuff, text messages, emails, and some other paperwork that I said, okay, you know, now I'm going to have to go back and talk to Jonathan and Susie, and I'm going to do that this morning to hear their side. But what I will not do, I'm not going to keep going back and forth, back and forth. I saw what they showed me. I heard both sides of the story. You know, I felt some things in the spirit when I was talking to Jonathan and Susie. I definitely felt some things, you know, when I went to Daystar. And I'm going to post this interview today. I'm going to let everybody chop it up, dissect it, criticize, say, hey, I'm gonna post the interview because that's the fair thing, the right thing. People can feel whatever they want to feel about it. And then I'm gonna make a third and final video where I share, you know, what they showed me, there's some stuff they showed me and it was like, I have to go talk to Jonathan and Susie. And then I'm gonna get Jonathan and Susie's response to, you know, the things that they showed me, and I already started talking to them about it. And I'm gonna make the final video and I'm gonna wash my hands of it.
As the days and weeks passed after Marcus Lamb's death, the actions of Joni Lamb and Doug Weiss became increasingly scrutinized. On the surface, Joni's decisions seemed like those of a widow seeking solace and healing. However, the rapid progression of her relationship with Doug Weiss quickly raised eyebrows. Doug, a counselor with a history of helping others through marriage recovery and addiction struggles, seemed to have formed a bond with Joni far too swiftly. By January 22, just 2 months after Marcus's passing, Doug filed for divorce from his wife of over 30 years, and whispers began circulating about the nature of his relationship with Joni during that time. The timeline of events painted a picture that seemed almost too convenient. Doug and Joni's closeness was now undeniable, but the speed with which it progressed raised questions. How could a relationship built on the trauma of losing a loved one evolve so quickly? And why did Joni, who had just lost her husband, seem so eager to defend her relationship with Doug, despite the fact that their bond was still new and somewhat controversial? Jonathan's disappointment in not getting his way only deepened when I married Dr. Doug Weiss, who has been such a blessing to me, the rest of my family, and Daystar. I can tell you that as a mother, as a grandmother. This situation saddens me deeply, and it grieves my heart because I love my family, I love all my children, I love my grandchildren, I love the work we've done together for so many years, and I had hoped that we could have resolved the situation in private, but now Jonathan has given me no choice except to speak out. Everyone knows that we have dedicated our lives to spreading the love of Jesus, and to see it attacked by my son Jonathan and his wife is truly heartbreaking. I want to assure you that all the allegations that are circulating against myself and my late husband are completely false. It was clear that, for some, this was not just a story of healing and recovery, it was a narrative laced with suspicion and intrigue. The accusations surrounding Doug and Jan's relationship were not just about timing, they were about trust. Were they truly operating from a place of faith as they claimed, or was there something else at play, something darker, more calculated? Adding to the complexity was the backlash Joni faced from those close to her, including her own family. Her children, Jonathan and Susie Lamb, publicly criticized her actions, adding fuel to the growing fire of controversy. They were not the only ones questioning Joni's decisions. The broader Christian community, who had once viewed her and Marcus as pillars of faith, now found themselves torn between admiration and disbelief. How could someone who had once been so publicly devoted to her husband and her family now move so quickly toward another man? The suspicion of a deeper conspiracy grew stronger as these connections and decisions unfolded. Was there more to Marcus's death than met the eye? Was it the tragic end of one chapter that was being used as the opening of another, more self-serving chapter? The marriage dynamics, the accusations of betrayal, and the sudden shifts in family allegiance painted a picture that was unsettling at best and scandalous at worst. Yes, that's true, but also, I would add that since this is such an absolutely deeply traumatic thing that we've gone through, obviously, us sitting here can never fully express what we've walked through in these past few years. I mean, I don't even want to get into the process of what that looked like, but it was excruciatingly painful. So yes, there is that freedom in not having to depend on a few people, keep begging for justice, having it minimized and turned down, and just hitting a wall like a dead end. There's peace and satisfaction now when the story came out and the way people received it, and I felt like the floodgates of justice opened on us when everyone validated what we as parents felt. We really wanted to do a short video. This is not the time or place that we want to get into our whole story. Jonathan and I just quickly grabbed the camera, sat down here to address a few questions. As the story continued to unfold, the timeline surrounding Marcus Lamb's death and Jan's subsequent actions became more and more difficult to ignore. The allegations and suspicions grew not only within the confines of the Lamb family but also spread across their ministry network, Daystar. Marcus Lamb had been a towering figure in Christian media, his voice echoing through the hearts of millions. To lose him so suddenly due to complications from COVID-19 left the Christian community in shock and mourning. Yet, in the aftermath of his death, it wasn't just grief that became pervasive, it was the murmur of unsettling whispers. The accusations of a possible conspiracy surrounding Marcus's death, while still speculative, seemed to be gaining traction. Joni Lamb, a woman who had stood alongside her husband for decades, was now a widow navigating both her personal loss and the immense responsibility of leading Daystar without him. For months, she publicly expressed the overwhelming sadness of losing her partner, but behind closed doors, things appeared to be moving at an unnervingly fast pace. Doug Weiss, the counselor whose professional expertise focused on sexual addiction and marriage recovery, seemed to be growing closer to Joni. Their relationship at first seemed like a compassionate friendship rooted in shared grief, but as time passed, it became more apparent that their bond had transcended mere companionship. The timeline suggested something more. An emotionally intimate connection had begun before Marcus's body had even been laid to rest. We will be doing some podcasts with amazing people and get into the nitty-gritty and the deep things. We told the journalist, a few journalists, our story, and then they have full control of what we've given them. We have no control. We told the truth. They do the investigation. That takes months. It takes a long time, so this is not something that just started now. This has been building. I'm proud of them for doing their due diligence. So, I thought the reason I suggested we do this video is because I didn't realize how much it would blow up. Jonathan had kind of an idea, I genuinely didn't. And since we've been on TV so much and people have loved us so genuinely, I felt it was cruel to not answer a few questions that people who genuinely love us want these answers to. Alright, so these are 4 of the most common questions that we've got over the last few days. 1 is, why didn't we go to the police, and why did it take so long to talk? 2, why did I not put my hands on this man? 3, why did Susie scream for me to go up versus her just going up herself? And 4, why are we not going public? What was more troubling was that this bond appeared to form in the shadow of Doug's own personal issues. Just as Joni was dealing with the loss of Marcus, Doug was in the process of ending his own marriage. The timing was nearly identical. Doug filed for divorce in January 2022, just 2 months after Marcus's death. Critics quickly pointed out how suspicious it was that he and Joni were already moving forward with plans to be together while Doug was still in the midst of a painful divorce. How could their relationship be seen as pure and wholesome when the timeline suggested a much quicker and more complicated bond? The allegations surrounding the emotional intimacy between Joni and Doug were further complicated by leaked audio recordings that surfaced online. In these recordings, Joni vehemently denied any inappropriate communications with Doug prior to their marriage. She passionately defended her relationship with Doug, claiming that their connection was rooted in prayer, faith, and a mutual desire for healing. In her defense, she stated that the accusations were complete lies and denied that anything inappropriate took place before they were married. But the leaked audio did little to quiet the rumors. Instead, it only deepened the speculation. So, let's unpack. The first question is, why didn't we go to the police? Well, we did go to the police actually, twice. I think to answer the second question, why did you wait so long to talk? I would say, let's go through the timeline, because I understand in an article, there's a bit of back and forth because it's so complex. So, we'll just go in a streamlined way. We're going to do a super concise version because this is going to be a short video. It'll all keep coming out. We have a little bit of notes here for just the main highlights. So, let's pick up from where it all began. I would start with in the summer of 2020, actually in early spring 2020, my sister noticed my daughter's behavior being strange, stiffening up when people came close, and I started to notice that too, but I didn't take it very seriously. I thought it was just part of growing. And then by that summer, on a trip, we're going to be a little careful with our words here, this man says that our daughter walked in on him in a bathroom, saw him full frontal nude. At this point, this was all new to me, and I didn't really know what to do with it. I just said okay, and since he told me, I went and checked on my child. She seemed fine, so I was like okay. I don't know if I even told you or not that day. What made this situation even murkier was the backdrop of personal and professional turmoil within the Lamb family. Jonathan and Susie Lamb, Marcus and Joan's son and daughter-in-law, were not only dealing with the grief of losing Marcus but also had to contend with the disturbing allegations of abuse involving their young daughter. Reports suggested that a trusted figure within the Daystar ministry, referred to only as Pete, had acted with impunity, and attempts to address these allegations had been met with resistance. Instead of taking immediate action to protect the child, the Lamb family leadership seemed to suppress the truth, pushing instead for the appearance of innocence. Critics, including former police officers, labeled the polygraph tests that were paraded online as flimsy evidence, calling them unreliable and inconclusive. Despite these calls for an independent investigation, the Lambs refused to cooperate, which only fueled suspicions of a cover-up. Then, as the months progressed, she started to get a little older, and her behavior changed. In November of 2020, she told me in very graphic detail that she had been molested. It was the shock of my life. I can't even explain the things I felt in that moment. I went to my confidant, the person I truly trusted with my whole heart. That was another question. Why did you go there? It was about 5:30 in the evening. Jonathan hadn't come home from work, and I was ready to get in the car and go to the police, but this woman, whom I really trusted, said no, we're going to talk to the teachers. When I talked to my child that day when she told me, this woman is my mom. You can just say the name, I know it's still hard. It is still hard. It's easy to talk to a journalist one-on-one, but going public, it genuinely hurts. These are people that we love, these are not people we're angry at or hate. Okay, sorry, I'm trying not to get emotional. Doug Weiss's role in this scandal was even more perplexing. A man of supposed professional integrity, specializing in counseling individuals facing personal struggles, seemed to have inserted himself into a situation where his expertise, and perhaps his personal interests, were deeply entangled with the Lamb family's own complex web of grief, family disputes, and controversial decisions. His sudden and rapid involvement with Joni right after the loss of her husband raised the question, was Doug acting as a counselor seeking to heal a widow, or was he using his position of influence for personal gain? Joan's defense of Doug only added fuel to the fire. She claimed that he had been nothing but a supportive figure, someone who had helped her through one of the darkest times in her life. She spoke passionately about Doug's devotion to his family and his ability to love her in a way that no one ever had before. She explained how Doug's previous marriage had been devoid of love and how, despite the hardships, he had always hoped for a miracle. Yet, many critics pointed out that the speed with which Doug and Joan moved from mourning to romance seemed out of step with the grief process. In a matter of months, their bond had evolved from mutual support to engagement. The question on many minds was, had they truly begun their relationship only after Marcus's death, or had it been brewing long before? So I asked my child, I have no practice with this, I don't know what leading questions are or were not. I assumed it was a school. Her world was so small, home, school, and we take her to Daystar, so I assumed it was a school. I asked her, is it at school? She was nervous and just nodded. I have since found out that counselors have explained that behavior to me now, and it all adds up, it all makes sense. I said, was it a girl or a boy? She said a boy. And I said, how tall? You know, trying to gauge the age. And she said, taller than Daddy. That struck fear in my heart because that is a man. A 5-year-old doesn't know to communicate that. Okay, picking up the pace, once that happened, we went to the school, and my confidant, the one I trusted, after we talked to the teachers and they said there's no male here, it was almost like, okay, we've done our part, case closed. And I told Jonathan, I don't want to get talked out of this. I don't want to have a discussion with your family, let's go to the police. We went to the police, filed our report, and they did a quick little investigation since there was not much to go on. In the midst of this storm, the Lamb family's leadership at Daystar became even more fragmented. While Joni defended her choices, insisting that everything was done with divine guidance, others, including those close to the family, saw her actions as a betrayal of the legacy Marcus had left behind. The damage to the Lamb family, both personally and professionally, was becoming more evident as they struggled to maintain control over Daystar. And with every new revelation, whether it was the growing connection between Joni and Doug, the disturbing allegations involving Pete, or the refusal to cooperate with a third-party investigation, the question remained, was this truly a tale of love and healing, or was something far darker at play? The truth, it seemed, was still waiting to be uncovered. Would the Lamb family confront the darkness looming over them, or would they continue to hide behind their public image, allowing the rumors to persist?